I still remember the chill that ran down my spine, even though our apartment in Charleston was always warm. I'd walked in early from a doctor's appointment, quiet, just wanting to rest. And then I heard her, Savannah, in the bedroom, her voice muffled but distinct, laughing with someone on the phone. My name caught my ear, and I stopped dead in the hallway. "Honestly, I can't marry him like this," she said, and my blood ran cold. "Can you imagine the wedding photos? I'd look like I settled for whatever I could get." A pause, probably her friend saying something. Then Savannah laughed again, a brittle, dismissive sound. "He got fat after his surgery. And I get it was medical, but it's been months, and he's still making excuses. I'm not going to tie myself to someone who doesn't even try." I stood there, frozen, listening to the woman I'd spent 4 years with reduce our entire relationship to my appearance and her social standing. It wasn't the first crack, not by a long shot, but it was the earthquake. To understand how I got to that hallway, you need to go back. I was Alex, 23, fresh out of college, working my first real job at a tech startup. And man, I was in the best shape of my life. I had nothing else to do but work and hit the gym. I was that guy, morning runs, meal prepping, posting gym selfies that, got way too many likes. Savannah noticed me at a coffee shop near our offices. She walked right up, complimented my build, asked if I competed. Within 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Looking back, it's painfully clear she always talked about my appearance. Like it was my most valuable trait. She'd say I looked like I walked off a magazine cover, how all her friends were jealous. At the time, I thought it was sweet, like she was proud to be with me. She posted us everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, always angled so my arms or shoulders were visible. Captions like couple goals or my king. Her comment section would just explode. I thought we were building something real. But I missed it. She never once posted about my personality, my sense of humor, how I treated her. It was always about aesthetics. By year 2, I started thinking about the future. Dropping hints about moving in, talking about what kind of house we'd want. She was enthusiastic, but vague. "Yes, definitely, when the timing's right," she'd say, but never commit. Year 3, I brought up marriage directly at our favorite Italian place. She smiled, then immediately deflected. "We're still young, Alex. Need to focus on careers, build savings. No rush, we're basically married already." It made sense, so I accepted it. Year 4 rolled around, and her friends started getting engaged left and right. Ring photos, wedding planning. When I mentioned it, she'd dismiss them. "They're just rushing because they're insecure, or marriage doesn't mean anything if you're not financially stable." Which sounded reasonable, except she never defined stable enough. She kept moving the goalpost. Then everything changed. I'd had this pain in my lower abdomen for months. Ignored it, like an idiot, until one night it got so bad I ended up in the ER. Complicated hernia. Required immediate surgery. The surgery went fine. The recovery? Brutal. They put me on pain meds that made me foggy, tired. For months, minimum, no heavy lifting, no intense exercise. Between the medication, the pain, and the depression from losing the one thing that made me feel good, I spiraled. I couldn't work out, couldn't move. Most evenings were spent on the couch, watching TV, eating takeout because cooking felt like too much effort. Savannah wasn't exactly stepping up with meals. The weight came on faster than I expected. 35 pounds over 7 months. Visible abs gone, replaced by a soft stomach around her face. And Savannah's entire energy toward me shifted. At first, it was small comments, disguised as jokes. Little digs about me enjoying those recovery meals, or suggesting it was time to get back to the gym. I'd laugh it off, explain I was still in pain, still doing physical therapy, that my doctor said to ease back slowly. But she kept pushing. By month 8, she wasn't joking. Pointed comments about how I looked in photos. Can we not post this one? When she really meant I looked heavier. She started pulling away physically. Less affection, less intimacy, more time on her phone or out with friends. When I tried to talk to her, she'd brush it off, just stressed with work. But I could feel the real reason hanging between us. Her friends started asking questions, too, apparently. One night she told me, "People are wondering what happened to you." She said it like it was my fault for embarrassing her. I tried explaining again, walked her through the whole medical situation, the chronic pain, the mental health struggle of losing my confidence. She listened with this blank expression, then dismissed it. "Everyone has problems, Alex. That's not an excuse to just give up on yourself." Like my literal medical recovery was some kind of character flaw. The distance between us became a massive, cold gap. We were barely talking, barely touching. Just roommates who didn't like each other. I felt like a failed project she'd invested in that hadn't panned out. Then came that night, the phone call. After hearing her reduce me to a visual inconvenience, I didn't burst in. I didn't confront her right then. I just walked back to the living room, quietly sat down. Something inside me fundamentally shifted. That's when I finally understood. Savannah hadn't loved me. She'd loved the version of me that made her look good. The second that version disappeared, she couldn't wait to trade me in. The next morning, I confronted her. "Do you really feel that way about me?" I asked. Instead of remorse, she tried to spin it. Said she was just trying to motivate me, wanted me to be my best version. Then came the line that made everything crystal clear. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Lose the weight. Then we can talk about marriage." Like our future was some reward I had to earn by meeting her physical standards. I realized I was done trying to win her approval. But I also realized something else. I did want to get back in shape. Not for her, not for us, but because I missed feeling strong, healthy, like myself. So I told her, "Fine. I'll work on it." Inside, I knew I was doing it for completely different reasons. That same week, I moved most of my stuff to my buddy Liam's place. Told Savannah I needed space to focus on my health. Honestly, I just couldn't stand being around her anymore. Couldn't stand the judgmental looks, the cold shoulders, the feeling I had to earn basic human decency. I started researching how to safely get back into fitness after surgery. Found a physical therapist named Daniel who specialized in post-surgical rehab. When I met him, he didn't judge me or comment on my weight. He just asked about my pain levels, my range of motion, my goals. He created a program for me that started incredibly slow, stretching, light movement, building core strength. He kept reminding me recovery was a marathon, not a sprint. It felt good to have someone in my corner who actually cared about my well-being, not just how I looked. I also saw a nutritionist, because I knew I needed to do this right. The first few weeks were brutal. Not the physical work, but breaking years of bad habits, late-night eating, using food as comfort. Slowly, things started to change. I'd wake up at 5, hit the gym before work. It was empty, quiet, a little lonely. But there was something peaceful about it. Like I was doing this just for me. The first time I managed a full workout without pain, I teared up in my car. It felt like getting a piece of myself back. Around week 6, I'd lost maybe 10 pounds. Nothing dramatic, but I could feel the difference. That's when Savannah started reaching out more. I was still staying at Liam's, but I'd go back to the apartment to grab clothes. Suddenly, she was interested again. Texting during the day, asking about the gym, suggesting dinner, touching my arm like she used to. She started posting about us again on social media, thinking of you with old photos. Her friends would ask if we were okay, and she'd respond with vague positive stuff. It was so transparent, it almost made me laugh. She thought I couldn't see exactly what she was doing. By month 3, I'd lost about 25 pounds and was honestly in better shape than before the surgery. I was being intentional about everything. Savannah was acting like nothing bad had ever happened. She wanted to meet up more, wanted to talk about us, kept hinting I should move back in. One night, she called and said she wanted to take me somewhere special. "We need to celebrate your progress, Alex, and talk about our future." I almost said no. But a part of me needed to see this through. Needed to confirm what I already suspected about her motives. We met at an upscale steakhouse downtown. She showed up looking incredible, wearing a dress I'd complimented 2 years ago. Hair and makeup done like she was going to a gala. She was extra affectionate, holding my hand, laughing at my stories. I just watched her perform. Then she launched into the speech about how proud she was of me, how I'd proven I could commit, how I'd shown her the man I really was. Her words had this weird, rehearsed quality. "You've really shown me who you are, Alex." I had this sinking feeling. She thought this was the reconciliation dinner. Thought that now that I looked good again, we'd just slide back into the relationship like the last year hadn't happened. Like she hadn't abandoned me when I needed support most. I excused myself to the bathroom, just stood there looking in the mirror. Total clarity. I'd lost the weight. I'd done the work. I'd proven whatever she thought I needed to prove. But none of it changed the fundamental truth: she'd only ever valued me for my appearance. When I came back to the table, she was fiddling with her napkin, radiating nervous energy. Before she could launch into whatever came next in her script, I just said it. "We need to talk honestly about us. About what this really is." She lit up, probably thinking I was about to say I wanted to move back in. But instead, I started asking questions. What do you love about me? What do you value in our relationship? Why do you want to be with me? And every single answer came back to surface-level stuff: how good we looked together, how I motivated her to stay fit, how people admired us, how proud she was of my transformation. Nothing about my personality, my values, how I treated her, the life we built over 4 years. She didn't even seem to realize how shallow it sounded. Then I asked her point blank, what would happen if I got sick again? If I had another medical issue, if life happened and I couldn't maintain this physique forever? She actually hesitated. Had to think about it. Then she said, "Of course I'd support you." But I could see in her eyes she was lying. I could see her mentally calculating if that was the right answer. I knew right then. I couldn't do this anymore. The dinner ended awkwardly. Her confused, me just trying to get through the night. When we left, she tried to suggest going back to her place. I told her I needed time, I'd call soon. I didn't call. 2 weeks of silence passed. She must have been losing her mind because she started ramping up the pressure, texts about needing to talk, something important planned, celebrating us. Finally, she called and practically begged me to meet her for one more dinner. Said she'd made reservations somewhere special. I agreed, because I knew I needed to end this cleanly. Needed closure. She picked this trendy rooftop place overlooking downtown Charleston, somewhere we'd gone on our first anniversary. I knew exactly what she was planning because she'd been dropping hints all week about big moments and new chapters. I let her think I was clueless. Let her get excited. I needed to see this through, to understand once and for all that I was making the right choice. We got to the restaurant. She was glowing, touching my arm, laughing too loud. I saw her checking her purse every few minutes, like she had something precious hidden inside. The waiter brought our drinks, and she launched into her speech, about my transformation, her inspiration, how I'd become the man she always knew I could be. Every word just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't celebrating me as a person. She was celebrating that I'd returned to being the accessory she wanted, the trophy boyfriend who made her look good. Then she reached into her purse. I knew this was it. She was about to pull out a ring, or push for some grand romantic gesture. Before she could say another word, I just said it. No, flat and simple. She froze, her hand still in her purse, a confused smile stuck on her face. What do you mean? What are you saying no to? All of it, I told her. The performance. The conditional love. Spending my life with someone who only valued me when I looked a certain way. I told her I'd heard every cruel thing she'd said to her friends. Seen how she treated me when I was at my lowest. Watched her check back in only when I became visually acceptable again. I was done pretending that was love. The confusion on her face shifted to anger, fast. She hissed that I was embarrassing her, that people were watching, that we needed to talk about this at home. But I was done talking in private, where she could manipulate the narrative. I stood up, put cash on the table for my half of the bill, and walked out while she sat there, frozen. I could feel every eye in that restaurant on us. But for once, I didn't care what anyone thought. I only cared about my own self-respect. My phone started blowing up before I even got to my car. Texts from her mom, from her friends. All saying basically the same thing: I was ungrateful, I'd humiliated her after everything she'd done for me, I owed her an explanation. The entitlement in those messages was almost funny. Like I owed her something for the privilege of her conditional affection. I turned my phone on silent and drove straight to Liam's. I knew I needed to be around someone who actually knew me, who'd seen how Savannah treated me this past year. Liam took one look at my face and just handed me a beer. Let me sit on his couch and decompress without a million questions. After about an hour, I told him everything. He listened, then said something that hit me hard. She loved your abs more than she ever loved you, man. Hearing someone else say it out loud made it feel more real somehow. Made me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did. I crashed at Liam's that night. The next morning, I knew I had to face it. Had to get the rest of my stuff from the apartment and make this official. I called my brother, Chris, who lives about an hour outside Charleston, and asked if he'd come help me move. Not because I thought Savannah would get violent, but because I knew she'd try to manipulate me if I went alone. Try to cry, apologize, make promises she had no intention of keeping. Chris agreed immediately. Said he'd never liked her anyway, and he was glad I was finally seeing clearly. We drove over to the apartment around noon on a weekday when I figured Savannah would be at work. I used my key, planning to just pack up my remaining clothes, documents, and get out fast. What I found inside changed everything. The place looked like someone had a complete breakdown. Pillows thrown, pictures of us knocked over, empty wine bottles on the coffee table. And there, on the kitchen table, was her laptop, sitting open. I wasn't planning to snoop, wasn't even thinking about it. But the screen was right there, facing me. It was open to a dating app profile. Already created. Recent photos of her. Filters set to athletic build and six-figure income. My stomach just dropped. I couldn't help myself. I scrolled through. Messages. Full conversations with other guys. Going back months. Back to when I was still recovering from surgery and at my heaviest. She was complaining about me to complete strangers, saying she was stuck with someone who'd let himself go. Asking guys if they wanted to meet up for coffee or drinks, fishing for validation while I was struggling through the worst medical and mental health crisis of my life. Some of these messages were from 8, 9 months ago. When I was at my absolute lowest. She was already shopping for my replacement. Chris saw my face and asked what was wrong. I just turned the laptop toward him. Let him see. He got angry in a way I rarely saw from my brother. Started saying she was garbage, I deserved better, we should expose her. But I told him, no, I didn't need revenge. Didn't need to drag her publicly. I just needed proof for myself that leaving was the right call. Evidence, in case she tried to rewrite history later and make me the villain. I took photos of the conversations on my phone, screenshots of her profile. Documentation of exactly who she was when she thought I'd never find out. Then I grabbed my clothes, my documents, my gaming console, anything that mattered to me. We loaded up Chris's truck. We were almost done, probably 15 minutes from leaving forever, when Savannah showed up. She must have gotten some kind of alert that someone was in the apartment. Or maybe her mom had driven by and tipped her off. She came storming in, demanding to know what I thought I was doing. Saying I had no right to be there without telling her, saying I was invading her privacy. The irony almost made me laugh. I stayed calm. Told her I'd seen the dating apps. Seen the messages to other guys. Seen that she'd been lining up my replacement since before I'd even started losing weight. She actually tried to justify it. You weren't being the partner I needed. What was I supposed to do? Like her emotional cheating was somehow my fault for being injured, for being human, for not maintaining the aesthetic she required. That's when I really let her have it. Not yelling, but cold and clear in a way I'd never spoken to her before. I told her she called me an embarrassment when I was recovering from surgery. Told her friends she couldn't marry someone who let himself go. Measured my entire worth by my appearance. And checked out of our relationship the second I stopped being Instagram-worthy. I told her I'd lost the weight, but more importantly, I was losing her. And honestly, she taught me exactly what kind of partner I never wanted to be with again. Someone who loved conditionally, who treated people like accessories, who abandoned ship the moment things got difficult. She tried the tears. Then the whole "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it" routine. Reaching for my arm like physical touch would somehow undo months of emotional cruelty. But I stepped back. Told her we were done. Officially over, completely finished. I said I'd already moved out weeks ago. This was just collecting the last of my stuff. And if she tried to contact me again, I'd block her on everything. Chris and I walked out. She stood in the doorway, still trying to get the last word, still trying to make herself the victim. As we drove away, I felt this massive weight lift that had nothing to do with the gym or the diet. 3 months later, I'm living in my own apartment in a different part of Charleston. Still working out, but because I genuinely enjoy it now. Because it makes me feel good and strong and healthy, not because I'm trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm doing well at work. Got a promotion. I even started seeing a therapist to work through some of the damage that relationship did to my self-worth, and I'm learning what healthy love actually looks like. I ran into Daniel, my physical therapist, at a coffee shop a few weeks ago. We got to talking, and he introduced me to his sister, Chloe, who works in graphic design and just moved to Charleston. We exchanged numbers. Grabbed coffee once. And there might be something there, eventually. Something that feels easy and genuine, based on actual compatibility, rather than how we look together in photos. Real love shows up during your worst moments, not just your highlight reel. It never requires you to earn basic human decency through your appearance. What do you think? Was walking away the only choice I had?